Well, that's a bit sad, isn't it? The 2017 F1 season has reached the summer breakpoint, which means no more racing for almost 4 weeks. Bollocks. Apart from the upcoming 2-day in-season test this week, the next bit of on-track action will take place on the 25th of August. And that feels like 2.5 years from now. Anyway, the final race before the break was a fairly solid way to end this first part of the season. But, as always, there is some dissecting to be done. And here goes. I'm Chip from the Digital Grandstand with the review of the 2017 Hungarian Grand Prix, the 11th Beyond the Finish Line report. How encouraging was the sight of Daniel Ricciardo on top of both free practices on Friday. For the first time this season, there was a realistic chance of a six-way battle for a win in Formula 1 in 2017. Seriously, what a scene after the trials and tribulations of Red Bull this season. But in the end it was not to be. In what can be fairly described as an inside job, the red-silver battle at the front agonizingly remained a four-way battle even at the Hungaroring, and we'll get to that a bit later. Just how the Mercedes machine was perfectly suited to the Silverstone track, this time around it was the turn of the Ferrari to be the car to beat in Hungary. With their full downforce setting suiting the red machine like no other, Mercedes were always going to have a hard battle ahead of them. During qualifying, the hot track temperatures, new floor and overall balance of the Ferrari meant they breezed to an easy 1-2 on the grid. Neither Sebastian's nor Kimi's Q3 runs were perfect, but those were more than enough to send a struggling Hamilton and an informed Bottas to the second row on the grid. With the scorching track temperatures and without the benefit of the Q3 engine mode, the Red Bulls were left to occupy the third row. Not that it was straightforward. In fact, Max Verstappen was only 1/10 of a second from Hamilton's lap time. Behind the leading pack, Hülkenberg qualified 7th for Renault but will start only 12th after a gearbox penalty. Then, surprise surprise, it was the McLarens. That's right, at this non-power sensitive track, the Woking boys started the race as best of the rest. Also worth mentioning is the Williams reserve driver Paul Di Resta, whom was called to replace Anil Felipe Massa. He qualified second last, but without any experience of driving these 2017 spec cars, it was a great effort for him. The start of the race was absolutely amazing. All 6 frontrunners got away superbly and the positions were held into the first corner. However, various degrees of pinpoint braking meant that some were more fortunate than others on the exit of turn 1. Choosing the outside lane, Verstappen momentarily got in front of both the Mercs, but Bottas' traction on the acceleration moved him past the young Dutchman. Meanwhile, round the inside, Ricciardo also got the better of Hamilton and had a great acceleration out of the corner. Approaching turn 2, the Red Bulls were neck and neck, but Ricciardo carried more speed and just got in front of his teammate by the time they've reached the braking point. Daniel judged it perfectly, but Max didn't. Locking up his left front tire, the number 33 Red Bull slides into the number 3 one, breaking the side radiator of Ricciardo. The Aussie was out on the spot and the safety car comes out for 5 laps. A little bit behind them, the Force Indias made great starts, especially Sergio Perez, who made up 3 places by the time the safety car was deployed. Lap 6 and racing resumed. Out in front, Vettel and Raikkonen started to pull away from the Merc of Bottas. Sebastian especially seemed a man on a mission. Fastest lap after fastest lap meant that he was out of undercut threat from Bottas by lap 15, with Kimi keeping close behind. Verstappen meanwhile had to defend from Hamilton as the Brit tried to regain 4th place. It was to no avail and, for a minute, it looked like Max was going to challenge for the podium and even the win. Not so in the end. The stewards ruled that it was the Dutchman who was at fault for the first lap collision and he was handed a 10 seconds time penalty. As is always the case round the Hungaroring, overtaking was rare and special on Sunday. For the first 25 laps, there were some opportunities for many racers, but none came to fruition. That being the case, every team turned their attention to the pit stops. With the aforementioned hot temperatures and extreme downforce settings, the Ferraris were contemplating a 2-stop race, as they saved a brand new set of supersofts for this. However, 2 developing scenarios would turn that strategy into a standard 1-stop. Firstly, the safety car obviously extended the life of the rubber, but also, more importantly, Sebastian Vettel, the leader of the race, had a nasty issue with his steering. As he divulged after the race, as soon as he took his place on the starting grid, his steering wheel tilted to the left. This could have had numerous explanations, but the fact was this: he was forced not to use the curbs on the track, as this could have made things worse for the steering column. Of the leading pack, Bottas opened the pit stop window with Hamilton a lap later. Then in came Vettel with Raikkonen 2 laps later. The calls were a bit baffling for two of them. On one hand, Hamilton had no radio communication with the team, so he was unable to point out that his tires were still in good shape and he could have extended his first stint. Raikkonen, meanwhile, was instructed to pit, even though, like Hamilton, his tires were in much better shape than those of Vettel. Speaking of Sebastian, his issues were so horrendous that his outlap was so slowed he almost lost the lead to his teammate. Had Kimi pitted 2 or 3 laps later, he surely would have emerged in front of the other Ferrari, the championship leader. And I guess that's not allowed at the Maranello team. So the battle resumed, this time with the gaps much narrower between the 4 racers. Vettel was lapping relatively slow, Kimi was not allowed to overtake, Bottas was catching, but soon he hit that point when his car is affected by the wake of the car in front and couldn't get any faster. Hamilton, by this time with his radio back, made the call. He asked his team to let him have a go at the Ferraris. The OK came on lap 46, but Lewis had to give the place back to Valtteri would his attack fail. From the moment he got in front of Bottas, Lewis cut the gap to the Ferraris in a ferocious fashion. However, just like his teammate, he soon hit that wake barrier and was unable to close the gap to less than half a second. Even with DRS, the Ferraris were just too well suited to the final turns 13 and 14, and on the pit straight the Merc had no chance of catching the red cars. The order will stay the same until the final corner of the last lap, when Hamilton allowed his teammate to take 3rd place. Kudos to both of these racers for playing the team game. Speaking of Bottas, after he allowed his teammate through, he was nowhere. Dropping at half a second a lap from the Ferraris and more than that to Lewis, he was going to fall prey to a recovering Max Verstappen by the end of the race. After serving his penalty at the pit stop, which occurred on lap 42, the Dutchman was a man on a mission. Lapping faster than the leading pack, he soon got within 3 seconds to Valtteri, but a misjudged braking point late in the race meant he had no chance of challenging for a better position. Behind the only remaining Red Bull, Fernando Alonso had an almost race-long battle with Carlos Sainz, finally claiming 6th place after the pit stops, with a magnificent battle from turn 1 into 3. It was such a tense battle, they even brought it to the pits with them. The Force India pair had a great recovery race, going again above and beyond the Call of Duty and paychecks, to score more crucial points with P8 for Perez and P9 for Ocon. With his 10th place, Stoffel Vandoorne secured the first double points finish for McLaren this season. It is that grim. But hey, happy birthday, Fernando! Fastest lap of the race, see? Much better. Give that man a competitive car for pity's sake! Vettel's win means he holds a 14 points advantage going into the summer break over Hamilton, and Mercedes still have some 39 points ahead of Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. All in all, the 2017 Hungarian GP was a good race. It wasn't as thrilling as Britain or as dull as Sochi, but a good, solid race which sees the championship still lacking an odds-on favorite, which is just what Formula 1 ordered. The nature of the track, Vettel's issues and slow pace, the team orders at both Mercedes and Ferrari prevented us from witnessing a classic race. But at least we still have 9 more races to go this season. When the next one is still more than 3 weeks away, one can't help but feel a bit down. And that was the 2017 Hungarian Grand Prix. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what are your thoughts of this Grand Prix. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more F1 related content. I've been Chip. You can find me on Twitter at chip_DGS, and that was Beyond the Finish Line for the 2017 Hungarian Grand Prix. Have a great F1 summer break, everyone.